Oh, hello again, Sam here, and we're in the Relove Guitars workshop, and I just want to start this video, or this part of the video, because I'm carrying on with the old Ibanez here, and actually I don't like that ruler hanging there, just for a number of reasons. I'm going to move it, and I'll tell you why in a minute when I come back to it. Anyway, just want to start off with a quick thank you to Chris, who sent me this, and I just hope you can see it quite well. Chris contacted me via YouTube and said, but by way of saying thanks for my videos and so on, that he was going to send me his little homemade nut remover kit, which is so cute. It's arrived in this little box, and in the kit we've got a little oak hammer with a piece of string for holding onto it. You can hang it up on the string, and then you've got the little doofer for knocking off the nuts, and then on top of that, in the lid here, we've got also on a string, we've got a little homemade knob removal, and he calls it a pot cap remover. I call it a knob remover, or a knob puller, because I don't mind sounding like a bad carry-on film from the 1970s. And on top of this, we've got a little bit of a yeah, it's a guitar shield. It's got a name. That's amazing. So it's a little bit of folks leather, but it'll I can imagine that its purpose is to help me take things off the body of the guitar, get the knobs off. So I don't currently have a nut to be bashing with this. I do have one inside, which I would probably need to do at some point, but I can still demonstrate. Oh well, let's do it with this old, not able to be used, slightly twisted, slightly overbent Hondo 2 neck, which is kind of had it really. So the idea is this tool is much better, or more. It'll do these perfectly well. So the idea is we take this here like this, and we go. We hold it so we can slide the thing through our hands, and we give it a firm little whack, and off comes a nut. There we go. That's good. That'll go back into my reuse department right now. It's sitting there wasting space on this unsavable neck, which I stupidly refretted. Anyway, it was good fun and practice. So the idea being that that's dead simple for use on a Les Paul style guitar, but the real reason that Chris has made this is because the nuts on Stratocaster style guitars are a lot harder. So although I can't actually demonstrate it this second, the idea of it is, if you imagine this to be a Strat, the thing about the Strat is it has a block of wood, or it has some of the neck rosewood that extends beyond the nut, so the nut sits in a slot, and as a result you can't just knock it off backwards. So what, and Chris has got a video that shows this better than I can demonstrate, but the idea is you'd give it a whack once that way, a whack once that way, and then the miracle is you would, once you've broken the glue seal, you'd knock it out with this nice little steel blade here. So that's a really neat little application. So I'm going to hang those up, find somewhere to hang them up a little bit later. Meanwhile, I'm just going to put this out of the way in my cluttered hanging space, and I'm going to grab a body, see if I can demonstrate. I haven't practiced this, so I'm just going to try out the cap, the knob cap, pot cap removal thing. So we look like we've got a taper on here, so it kind of allows you to sort of wiggle it under there. And I guess I'm just guessing. I could be wrong, Chris. So please don't yell at me if I got it wrong. But I would imagine that I would be using the thingy here as a protection for the body of the guitar, so I can kind of work with this without any worry. And of course this is under plastic, so it's not such a big problem. Sorry, it sits on plastic, but obviously there are lots of nuts that knobs that don't. So I'm going to pretend this is I don't know, something like a PRS or something without a guard. So I've just pushed this under here, fits nicely, and I'm going to push and lever slightly with it It's nicely right the way under. What it's done is, if nothing else, it's lifted it for me. One of the things you probably could do, which I would probably revert to, is to finish this process off, I might use a little pivot. Not exactly ideal because I don't want this thing to run too far, push lever too far in any one direction, but using this as a pivot, there you go, that's sort of levered it off. Not too bad. Apologies Chris, I haven't watched your other video yet, so I'm just going blind on this. You might have a better way of doing it, but that was kind of helpful. Anyway, I think one of the things that sometimes is the hardest bit is getting this the pot to move at all. So a tool like this with a nice chamfer on it, a kind of gradient on it. Once I can squish that under there, actually that alone gives me enough room to put my currently missing other techniques to use much easier, which might be putting my piece of cloth under there. I'm getting all of it under there like it really works best, and then pulling it up tight and just pulling it off like that. So nice starter tool at least, and you can go the whole way with it. What I would say, by the way, is a little piece of advice from if you're ever levering pots, caps off or knobs off pots, you really want to never put the guitar back together again without going behind here and checking that they're properly attached, because first of all, any movement of the pot itself is quite stressful, and also it often can move the wires, and which, anything that moves in this configuration is going to be the thing that's likely to break first. So absolutely worth double checking. Easier on a Les Paul style or a SG style because you can just go straight through to the back. Much more difficult on something like this. Now this, by the way, is the Marlin Stratocaster body. I'm not confident the neck's really any good, so I've got this body just sitting here. An interesting combination of Marlin blade pickup. This is a Vance and Alnico pickup, and this is, I think, the Marlin one again. So quite an interesting tonal thing going on there, and there's a coil tap as well available here. So I'm just holding this on till I get a neck that works with this, because it's quite a nice big chunky plywood body. Anyway, I'm putting it out of the way for the time being, because time now to get on with the job at hand. What I might do, by the way, I might just edit this as a separate section. Yeah, so I'm just going to say once again, Chris, thanks ever so much for your gift. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have been able to help you set up your guitars, or have the confidence to set your guitars up. Yeah, I shall treasure these little tools and hang them from. I'll put up some special screws into my long-suffering shed structure and hang them up there for future use. But that's brilliant. Thank you very much, and get well soon.